アイルトン・セナダ・シルバ1960年3月21日父ミルトン母ネイジの長男として生を受ける。厳格で勤勉なアイルトンの父は一代で財を築き上げた男。アイルトンは裕福なセナダ・シルバ家の長男として何不自由のない人生をスタートさせることができた。恵まれた環境、教育熱心な父。アイルトンは父の期待に応えた。学校での成績は父を十分に満足させるものだった。しかし少年の心はもっと別のところにあった。アイルトンが4歳の頃、父は息子におもちゃのカートを与えた。かろうじて動く程度の無骨なおもちゃはそれでもアイルトンの興味を引くには十分だった。4歳のこの幼児の心にほんの小さな明かりが灯った。裕福な家、父がたまたま与えた1馬力にも満たないカート、天賦の光。アイルトンの小さな体をめぐり無数に連なる DNA の配列のどれかのスイッチがオンになった。ブラジルといえばサッカーが子供たちの憧れ。しかしアイルトンはすぐにカートに夢中になった。1973年7月、アイルトンは記録に残る最初のチェッカーを受けた。そのチェッカーを振ったのがルシオ・パスクアル、通称チェと呼ばれた名メカニックだった。
Fue una data inclusive faz ahora 20 años, cuando apareció aquí por una infelicidad de un motor que quebró. Interrumpió o motor para ele e o pai perguntou se o motor ia andar. Falei, se o menino anda certinho pode ganhar a corrida. E o pai ficou um pouco estranhado, um pouco surpreso, com tanta felicidade que esse domingo ele ganhou a corrida batendo récord, vitória e melhor volta. Aí acabou a corrida e vai cumprimentar a gente, agradecer. Aí a gente parece que se encontrou. E viu com muito carinho, falou, senhor, muito obrigado pelo motor. Eu falei, por nada. Aí depois de ir para frente, se foi entrosando, sempre sem você, sempre com respeito. Não era Ayrton Senna, era um estranho, um 42 que apareceu na pista de improviso. Se foi uma infelicidade que morreu um piloto aquele dia e surgiu o 42. Aí na semana seguinte se comentava quem ganhou a corrida e tinha pilotos já conhecidos. O fulano, não, ganhou um 42. Mas quem é esse 42? Então ficava sempre na incógnita, não se sabia.
アイルトンの父は中途半端なことは嫌いだったのだろうか。父はおもちゃのカートに不満を訴える息子に彼の望む環境を整えた。それがチェとの出会いのきっかけになったとも言えるだろう。歴史の歯車が小さな音を立ててゆっくりと回り始めた。誰もわからなかった。誰も予想できなかった。誰もセナの歯車が14000回転1000馬力のモンスターに到達するまで回り続けるとは思いもしなかった。しかしこの頃のアイルトンはただ42番と呼ばれていた。
Entonces era una persona que tenía todas virtudes. Além de andar fuerte, era técnico, arrojado y no tenía para él fronteras. Si el motor estaba ruin o faltaba un poco de motor, tiraba la parte de él, como falamos aquí, tiraba no brazo. Entonces nunca reclamó de un motor, el motor está ruin, el motor nunca abrió el bico. No quería tampoco saber que tenía motor, cómo funcionaba, qué hacía. Entonces una persona que realmente se entrosó mucho con la gente, porque se entendía muy bien. Él, por saber pilotar, y la gente hacía el resto, que era mecánica. Pero no se metía en la gente, me faz mejor, me faz... Nunca tuve enemigo para él. Enemigo no, concurrente serio para él. Entonces nunca precisamos de ter atrito, el motor mío está peor, el motor de él está mejor. Nunca abrió la boca. Entonces en esa parte, normalmente los pilotos de hoy en día, cualquier piloto, le reclaman mucho. Eso pai, eso mecánico, nunca está certa. Y con él no existía, para él, gente más certa que la gente. Porque cuando una gente era un moleque con 14 años que sabía na escola só, no sabía de automobilismo. Entonces a gente entrosó él y conversaba lo que era un motor, cómo se trocaban las pesas, cómo se hacía. Y llegó eso de ahí. Entonces está contento porque gente fez no es que creó un fenómeno, la gente ayudó a un fenómeno, que es diferente. Puede ser que si no estuviese con la gente, no sería 42, sería un da Silva, un Ayrton, un Senna, no repercutía tanto como ahora. Entonces la trayectoria de él fue completa, perfecta. No porque llegó ahí a Fórmula 1, la gente está analizando él o que era no kart. Era tanto cuanto más que una Fórmula 1. Y para mí le representa no piloto de Fórmula 1, piloto de kart. Daquela época, aquele menino que respetaba a gente.
アイルトンは手とともにカートレースを文字通り席巻する。14歳のアイルトンはサンパウロのカート選手権を獲得するまでになった。そしてもう誰もがセナの名前を知っていた。ブラジルで敵なしのアイルトンはイタリアの名門チームダップに参入。カートの世界選手権にも出場している。1% のインスピレーション、99% のパースピレーション。しかしアイルトンにとってそれは苦しさを伴う意味での努力ではなかった。自らの意思で雨の中転んで繰り返し練習を重ねたという。ただ好きだから、一番になりたいから。この思いは F1 へ上り詰めても変わることはなかった。アイルトンは少年の頃の思いをそのまま F1 のコックピットに持っていくことになる。そしてアイルトンは優勝カップのコレクターとしてブラジルに名を馳せる。
Voy a correr por la fábrica. Y ahí después ya se esfrió, el campeonato no estaba bueno, mudó categoría de motores, se afastó y no lo siguiente fue cuando vino para acá, pegó, se casó rápido y fue embora.
81年にはカートを続ける一方でイギリスのフォーミュラフォードに参戦。本格的なレーシングマシンのステアリングを初めて握るのである。古いマシンとブラジル人というハンデを背負いながらもフォーミュラフォードでは最終戦を待たずして大差をつけてチャンピオンを獲得。その頃イギリス国内を転戦するアイルトンには妻リリアンがいた。しかしアイルトンの心の中はレースで満たされてしまっていた。 F1 への道がほんの一筋の光となって見えていたのかもしれない。 82年、再びヨーロッパへ旅立つアイルトンのそばにリリアンの姿はなかった。
Yeah, Van Diemen is a company that's been producing Formula Ford cars for over 20 years, and we've always run a works team as a shop window to sell our products, which go worldwide. So we've always had young drivers, and there's been many young drivers that have come through our hands, and they've gone on to doing other things in Formula One and other areas of motorsport. We've always been, for a very long time, from the mid-70s, market leaders in this type of category. And the team has built a good reputation, or did do through the 70s and 80s, as being a winning team. And I guess if you're talking specifically about the Brazilians, it did come to a bit of a hand-me-down situation, whereby one Brazilian came over, he was happy, so therefore he went back and said, well, where you want to go is to Ralph Furman at Van Diemen, etc., etc. And that's how we had a line of Brazilians. Well, we had a driver who we raced for us in 1977. His name was Chico Serra, and we remained friends for a good time, and we're always in contact. He went on to other areas of motorsport and was around in England and Europe. And he told me about Ayrton 2 years before he actually came, and he said that this is a driver that you must have, Ralph. And so eventually, when he did decide that he wanted to come to England and race, it was Chico Serra who introduced him to Van Diemen. Well, he's a super bloke. His English was obviously quite limited, but there again, we were used to dealing with this type of driver, and he's a man that always knew exactly what he wanted, and he pushed hard to achieve that. I mean, very dedicated from day one, which obviously we've seen this go on in later years.
82年、フォーミュラフォード2000にステップアップ。フォーミュラの名に恥じない厳格なレギュレーションは、ドライバーのテクニックだけがレースの結果となって現れる。資金不足や妻リリアンとの1年にも満たない生活。疲れ果てていたはずのアイルトンだったが、再びヨーロッパに向かった。
First sponsor really came last year when I had a bank sponsoring myself, and this year is much more professional. In Formula 3 I have a lot of support with Brazilian sponsors, which is always very difficult to get. Even with good results and wins and records, is very difficult to get sponsorship.
How much money do you need to find every year?
Well, in 81 was not very much. I had a lot of support from Ralph as well. In 82 was a bit more.
How much?
In 82 I would say around 20,000, 30,000 pounds. But in 83 that figure comes a lot more, around 150,000 pounds, which is very difficult to get.
スポンサーがつき、レースに専念できる体制は整った。セッティングの入念さはカートの頃から変わらない。そしてもう誰もがアイルトンの存在を恐れていた。フォーミュラーフォード2000を借り、ヨーロッパイギリスの選手権も制覇。28戦中22勝を遂げている。しかもポールポジション、ファステストラップ、優勝の3点セットが12回。新しいブラジルの彗星にエマーソン・フィッティパルディも注目している。アイルトンの群を抜くドライビングは かつての F1 ワールドチャンピオンの興味を引くには十分だったに違いない。
Eu acho que sem dúvida o Ayrton está numa carreira brilhante, está dominando a Fórmula Ford do ano passado e a Fórmula 2000, a Fórmula Ford desse ano, mas de uma maneira que nunca ninguém dominou. Qual é o próximo? De uma maneira diferente da minha, ele está dominando mais do que todo mundo. Então. Qual é o próximo passo que ele tem que dar, passo para não se desviar dessa carreira? No fim desse ano, possivelmente andar de Fórmula 2 ou até testar Fórmula 1. I knew since he was 12 years old driving go-kart in Interlagos. Racing track in São Paulo where we both born, and he was just an incredible driver and a very good personal friend of mine.
黄色と緑のシンプルなヘルメットは常にレースをリード。そろそろフォーミュラーフォードは卒業する時期に来ていた。83年、イギリス F3 選手権にステップアップ。この頃すでに F1 界から熱心なオファーを受けているが、アイルトンは着実なステップアップを望んだ。アイルトンにとっては頂点のカテゴリーに行くための通過点であり、たとえ優勝できると分かってはいても F3 のステップを外すわけにはいかなかった。天から降ってきたようなチャンスに動じないドライバーはおそらくはアイルトンだけだったかもしれない。
I think I'm very young. I am just 22 years old, and there is plenty of time to get Formula One if I will get there.
You say you're very young at only 22, but you have in fact had a lot of years driving. When did you first start?
Cannot be sounding true, but I start with 4 years old in go-kart. My father made a special one, very small obviously, and up to 13 years old I was just going around, practicing. I enjoy very much, always motor racing. Last year was my first season in cars, in single seaters. I never tried before single seater in Brazil. My first time in a car properly was here in England last year. The things always had been very good for me.
アイルトンの中では F1 に行くことはすでに決定されていることであり、 F3 はそのためのステップに過ぎなかった。ウエストサリーレーシングのリック・ベネッツはアイルトンのセッティング能力に驚きを隠せなかった。2人はタイトルを取るという共通の目的で結ばれ、そのためにはどんな小さなことも話し合ったという。
With Surrey Racing, or WSR we call it for short, we concentrate just on Formula 3, and we set up the team or the business in 1981. Previous to that I had worked for, well, not McLaren's, it was Ron Dennis, Project 4 Racing, and then I was involved with the Formula 3 team there with Stefan Johansson, and I enjoyed it. It was a good technical challenge, and we sold the car to Mike Cox, who owns West Surrey Engineering, and then they had no one to run this sophisticated car, so they approached me, and I had an opportunity to stay with Ron to move into the Formula 1 project or set up our own team. So I took the challenge to set up our own team, and we've expanded from there. It was about mid-82. A friend of mine who was running a Formula Ford 2000 team, Dennis Russian, we were testing at Snetterton, and he wandered down and said, this guy, Ayrton Senna, or Ayrton de Silva, he was then, worth keeping an eye on. He's very good, very talented. So as the year progressed, we got in touch with each other, and at that stage there was a non-championship race at the end of the season. We were already running a young Argentinian lad, Kiki Mansella. So Ayrton was keen to do the final non-championship race, so we arranged a test day, and turned out he was very quick. We were impressed with him and he was impressed with us, so we did a quick deal, did the non-championship race, and pole position, first, fastest lap. I think he won by something like 13 seconds.
大きなスポンサーを獲得し、資金的にも心配のなくなったアイルトンはレースに全力を傾けることができた。すぐそこまで見えてきた F1 の世界を前にしたアイルトンを止める者など誰もいなかった。
Very young person mentality-wise, he was always playing jokes and doing great things as a brother in a way, and he would love to pull something on you, even simple things like eat your food before you get there in the table or something that really made him. He had to be competitive in anything that he did. And the other things that were very interesting when we lived together, if we were playing cards or doing whatever that competition was on, he could never lose. He would get very upset when he was losing, and if he lost, he would play again, and then let's go doubles, and let's do again, and let's do again, until he would give up. And there was always dinners involved, and you had to pay something if you.
開幕からアイルトンは文字通り勝ちまくった。第1戦シルバーストーンから5月30日の第9戦までアイルトンは連続優勝を遂げる。しかも第2戦からは8連続ポールポジション、そのほとんどがファステッドラップを叩き出している。そしてレースでは新しいスターを探す F1 関係者もアイルトンのレース運びを見ていた。
For his age, so he was 21 then, very, very mature, very cool, didn't get flustered about anything at all, and very good all round. His technical feedback, considering he was new to what is regarded as one of the most difficult formulas, he was very good. Pretty good. He was fairly quiet, but people say I'm a quiet person myself. When I lock into concentrating on the work, that's it. There's nothing else in the world to me. I just lock into the work, and he was the same. And we're a small team then. There's only 4 of us in total. He was just 100% dedicated on going racing.
Now the men to watch are number 1, Ayrton Senna, the brilliant Brazilian who has won 9 of the 13 rounds this year, and number 2.
公式にはアイルトン・セナの名前でエントリーされたのは第2戦からだった。それまではダ・シルバ。2戦目のエントリーリストにダ・シルバの名前がなかった時、ライバルたちは喜んだとも伝えられている。そしてセナの名はこの時イギリス中に知れ渡ることとなった。
First could well win the race, and it is Senna who it's Senna as leading away with Martin Brundle in second position. Now there is a tremendous rivalry between these
F3 時代のライバルは後に F1 で戦うことになるマーティン・ブランドル。ブランドルはセナを脅かすに足る存在だったが、それでもポイントでは及ばなかった。
Now Senna, and there he is, and look at the lead that he has over Brundle. This is what we have seen all through the season, with young Davy Jones in 3rd position. So the 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the championship are 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the race on lap 1. And it looks to me already as though Senna has the legs of Martin Brundle.
ラルト RT3 トヨタに乗る新生アイルトン・セナはその強さにますます磨きをかけ、研ぎ澄まされたドライビングは誰も寄せつけることを許さなかった。83年ノンタイトルのマカオを含め21戦中13勝、ポールポジション、ファステストラップ、優勝の栄誉を積み上げた。エマーソン・フィッティパルディやネルソン・ピケも この F3 で戦い F1 に上がり、そして頂点を極めた。激しい予選や意図的なプッシュなど F3 の世界はその上を目指す者に多くの試練を与える。それに勝ち残らなければ次のシーズンに再び最初からやり直すか、レースの世界を諦めなければならない。
Yes, I didn't meet Ayrton until Formula 3 in 1983. His reputation very much preceded him. Everybody expected him to win the Formula 3 championship immediately, even though he'd never driven a car before, which surprised me. But obviously when I saw him racing, I could understand the hype that surrounded his career up to that point. We had a fantastic season. We crashed together a few times, but we had a lot of very good races. And it was a great privilege for me to race against him so closely.
I watched him for some time in 81 when he came to England to do Formula Ford racing, and early in 82 he just won the Formula Ford championship, and obviously during that season then he went on to do Formula 2000, and I was very impressed with him. He'd won so many races. I had a chat with him. His father was over from Brazil, and I said to him what we were doing and how we would like him to have a test in the car. It was his first ever time to drive in Formula 3, and he immediately went quick. We'd been on pole position for the race the previous Sunday with another driver, of course, and within 20 laps Ayrton was quicker than our pole time, so we were staggered. I mean, we were really amazed. I've never seen anybody go so quickly so soon, and so that was the first occasion. Obviously he went into Formula 1. We always remained good friends. I don't believe I've ever met anyone quite like this particular one. As far as I'm concerned, he was without doubt the very best that we could have ever seen, and it will take a very, very great driver ever to match what he was able to do.
行き詰まるような激しいレースが毎回繰り広げられるここイギリスで、3年連続それぞれのカテゴリーでチャンピオンを獲得することがどれほどのことなのか、それを証明するのは簡単だ。 F1 のテストを受けること。 F3 シーズン半ばの7月、セナはドニントンパークへ向かう。期待と緊張でセナの心は高ぶる。この時を待っていた。サーキットでセナを待っていたのはタグカラーのウィリアムズ FW08C。 82年ケケ・ロズベルグを擁して世界制覇したフランク・ウィリアムズは次なるヒーローを探していた。セナはフランク・ウィリアムズに招かれ、ついに F1 マシンのステアリングを握ることになった。
Eu acho que Deus está me dando um presente. Eu vim esperando há muito tempo. E Ele está me ajudando também muito a ficar calmo, tranquilo, numa boa. É um sonho que há muito tempo eu tenho e está sendo realidade hoje.
市販エンジンを改造した F3 とは比べようもないパワーの違い。デリケートな操作を要求するステアリング。それをねじ伏せるにはセナの体力はまだまだ足りなかった。ウィリアムズはセナに言った。タイムを求めているのではない。 君が F1 に乗ったことがないという事実を消すことが重要なのだ。この時試されたのはセナだったのかウィリアムズだったのか。セナはすでに複数の選択肢を持っていた。 F3 のドライバーが F1 へ招かれてのテスト、これこそがセナの実力を如実に物語っていると言えるだろう。現役の F1 ドライバーをもしのぐタイムはオーナーたちにとって驚き以外の何者でもなかったに違いない。マシンの正確な情報を受けたフランク・ウィリアムズはセナに天性の才能を見たという。ザ・マン・オブ・タレント、来るべくして来た男。特にフランク・ウィリアムズはセナの獲得を切望したと言われている。しかしセナとウィリアムズが再び出会うまでには10年の歳月を必要とする。
Assim que eu saí do box, eu achei uma potência enorme, mas com 2, 3 voltas eu já estava acostumando a pegar. E parece que não tem segredo nenhum. Mas ainda fiz pouquíssimas voltas, a posição do banco, da alavanca de câmbio também estavam erradas, eu não estava conseguindo guiar direito, então eu parei.
Nessas primeiras voltas, assim, você tem muito cuidado?
É importantíssimo não dar, sair feito um doido aí, dar cavalo de pau, rodar, não tem sentido. Porque eu não tenho responsabilidade nenhuma de virar um tempo bom. A primeira vez que eu sento num carro de Fórmula 1. O negócio é sentar e ir pegando as reações do carro o mais rápido possível, sem arriscar de fazer besteira.
そして83年のシーズンオフ、セナはウィリアムズや他のチームを含め精力的に F1 マシンをドライブする。 F1 への道が見えてきた。そしてそれはセナ自らが敷いたレールでもあった。
Junto, o que é mais difícil da adaptação da Fórmula 3 para a Fórmula 1?
Eu acho que é mais um degrau, entendeu? É um degrau grande com relação a aderência, potência, freios. A gente está tendo problema com freios também. Eles não estão funcionando como deveriam. Isso está causando um grande problema com a aderência na traseira do carro. Mas é um degrau maior apenas. Não existe nenhum grande problema. A oportunidade que o Frank está me dando é importantíssima. Eu espero um dia poder retribuir a ele, porque para um piloto que nunca andou de nada a não ser Fórmula 3 no máximo, sentar direto num Williams e com o interesse que o próprio Williams, você está aqui, está vendo, dispensando ali atenção sobre mim, eu acho que isso é mais gratificante que qualquer outra coisa. É o que eu sempre procuro nas pessoas, o reconhecimento do esforço e do empenho que eu coloco na minha carreira.
Well, I'd asked him if he'd like to drive a Grand Prix car earlier in the year, simply because he was winning most of the Formula 3 races and he looked pretty impressive. When he drove that morning, he only drove 23 laps, 24 laps, it wasn't much at all. And surprisingly, he wanted to stop early. He thought the engine was not very healthy. In fact, it seemed to be okay when we took it apart. But he was immediately very quick. We'd been testing there with that car several times in the summer of 1983 with another driver who was, I think, got down to a 61.5 second lap, and that was within about 9 or 10 laps equaling that time. And after he stopped, he'd achieved a lap time approximately a second faster than the other driver. It was a very impressive performance. And always he was in control. There was no room for him, unfortunately. Well, because we'd already contracted two drivers for the 84 season.
1983年12月、アイルトン・セナはアレックス・コークリッジ率いるコールマンの契約書にサインし、レース界頂点のカテゴリーに上る。アイルトン・セナ23歳、若きグランプリドライバーの誕生だ。F1 マシンのテストを続ける一方で F3 のポイント争いは熾烈を極めていた。シリーズ半ばから後半にかけて宿敵ブランドルの猛追が始まる。2人はたびたび激しいバトルを繰り広げた。チャンピオンが確定したのは最終戦。セナはかろうじてブランドルに9ポイントの差をつけ、イギリス F3 選手権をものにした。 スタードライバーが招待されるマカオグランプリでもセナはポールポジション、ファステストラップ、そして優勝とお決まりの勝ちパターンで83年を終えた。来年はいよいよ史上最速のマシン F1 が待っている。